Welcome to the Strategic Plan, an audio series exploring 3 areas that are helping to shape bright, grounded, connected, and inspired students well beyond their years at Leo Baeck. We will dig into the topics of social, emotional well-being, and differentiated learning to see what these buzzwords are all about. And we will visit how teaching Jewish identity has adapted to meet changing times. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the show. And now, back to my conversation with Rabbi Noam Katz. Let's talk about what is Reform Judaism, basically in essence, and how it kind of manifests itself at Leo Baeck and how it's taught and how it is a part of really the most important, it's like the most important part of the culture, I would think, at Leo Baeck. It's Reform Judaism is the identity of the school, no?
Yes. I mean, we were founded in 1974 by a bunch of the Reform rabbis at the main congregations here in the GTA who wanted to see a place where students and families could learn Judaism through Reform lenses, through a progressive Jewish lens, and have it really guide and inform the way that they led their Jewish lives with school and synagogue and home family life. And then as of 1999, with our summer camp partner, Camp George as well, that there would be a lot of different on-ramps to help our families in our community understand the richness and the possibilities of Reform Judaism.
So I know this might, it's probably actually not that complicated an answer for a Reform rabbi, but how would you describe what Reform Judaism is to someone who is hearing that term for the first time?
Yeah, how long do you have? No,
we don't have that much time, but do your best.
Well, look, you can certainly look at it from a historical, bent, which is that it's the first of the major modern denominations of Judaism that's been around for over 200 years, starting in like the late 1700s, early 1800s in Germany, made its way over to the Americas, and today is the largest single denomination of Judaism in North America. I think we're now at about close to 900 congregations, 15 overnight summer camps, 12 or 13 Reform Jewish day schools, a youth network, Nifty, that I grew up in. So it is a collective body, as well as with institutions that help ordain Reform rabbis and cantors and educators, and also with the Reform Social Justice wing called the Religious Action Center. So we are part of a greater umbrella of different institutions and individuals who really care about, preserving and strengthening Reform Judaism. So what does that even mean? Well, Reform Judaism, in my hopefully concise way of describing it, is the denomination that really tries so hard to blend tradition with modernity, with modern practice and belief and scholarship, to say we are constantly evolving in the world, and we want to make sure we maintain and preserve those beautiful traditions and holidays that exemplify who we are as Jews. But we know that over time, they're going to have to be tinkered with. They're going to have to reform. They are going to have to change and evolve, just as we do, in every generation. So that's a piece of why it's not Reformed, but Reform Judaism, that is always looking to reform and change and modernize with the times. I also look to Reform Judaism as the leader of the Jewish movements in terms of diversity and inclusion and acceptance. We kind of think of ourselves as the big tent of Judaism, where Jews of color, Jews from interfaith families, Jews LGBTQ plus identifying, Jews with disabilities, that we as a movement really try to practice what we call audacious hospitality, to really make sure that everybody feels like they have a place within the community, as opposed to feeling like they're on the margins, that they're being judged, that they're being excluded. And it's not surprising then that Reform Judaism was the first of the major movements to ordain women rabbis and cantors, to ordain openly gay rabbis and cantors. That spirit of inclusion, I think, is central to who we are. And maybe the last bit is that we are a movement that makes sure that our learning and our education informs the way Judaism is going to play a role in our lives. You may have heard the term informed choice, this idea that we are not just the chosen people, but the choosing people. We choose where and how Judaism is going to make the most sense in our modern lifestyles. But we don't just do this from a place of here's how I feel today. We try to do it from a place of education and experience and reflection, and then figure out, okay, what are the Jewish choices I'm going to make for me and my family that make the most sense for us going forward?
That was good. That was concise. That was good.
That's something I've never been called.
That's about as concise as it gets, I think. So, talking about, the egalitarianism that is within Reform Judaism, and it set it apart early on, differentiating itself from Orthodox Judaism and at the time conservative Judaism as well. This would be a good time to talk about my sister, who is a Leo Beck graduate as well, an ordained rabbi. I got a text.
One of my classmates.
That's right. And
when we were in New York together.
That's right. And I would be hard pressed to leave this out of the podcast, that my mother sent me a text today saying that I have to include that Emma is the first female Leo Beck graduate to be ordained as a rabbi. So kol hakavod to my sister Emma.
Yeah, kol hakavod. Shout out to my friend and colleague, Emma Gottlieb.
There you go. So she started her clergy journey wanting to be a cantor because she loved Jewish music, especially music that came out of the Reform community. You yourself, you walk around school apparently with your guitar. Why is music so important to teaching at Leo Beck, especially about Reform Judaism?
I'm glad you asked that, because some of my students think something's wrong if they don't see Rabbi Katz with his guitar walking down the hall or into a classroom. Long before I was, Rabbi Katz, I did not have the opportunity or privilege of going to a Jewish day school, but I largely grew up in synagogue life and at Reform Jewish summer camp. In those days, there was no Camp George when I was growing up. So the closest Reform summer camp to where I lived in Rochester, New York, was Eisner Camp in the Berkshires in Western Massachusetts. And I just remember from a very young age being in awe of those counselors and song leaders, not so many years older than me, with their guitar, leading an entire community, whether singing joyfully at Friday night Shabbat services or a raucous song session in the dining hall, in the Chadar Ochel. There was something incredibly spiritual and unifying about singing together. It's where I learned Hebrew. It's where I learned many of the canon of modern Jewish and Israeli folk songs, both in Hebrew and English. As I got older and decided that's what I want to do when I grow up, be a song leader like my heroes, Debbie Friedman, Zichrona Livracha, and so many others, I saw that was a way of both teaching and guiding and building community all at the same time through this vehicle of music. And I would say that really makes us at Leo Beck stand apart from, I think, a lot of the other day schools on the landscape, is that Judaism should be joyful. It should be musical. It should feel modern. And so our Shabbat services and our monthly Rosh Chodesh services and our holiday celebrations really are steeped in that tradition of learning and singing music together. And I don't know any other way, because that for me was how I got pulled in, probably similar to your sister. And I have vowed in any aspect of my rabbinate or my educatorate, that music was going to continue to be one of the tools and vehicles through which I would try to transmit some of that joy and connection to the Jewish people.
And a lot of those songs are derived from texts, and I want to talk about just how important Jewish texts are to teaching about Reform Judaism, because the texts themselves are not reformly Jewish, but how do you use them in the context of Leo Baeck? How important are those texts to teaching?
Well, I'll give you a very specific example that one of our big hits, one of the bangers that we like to sing is a tune called B'Tselem Elohim.
Yes.
I bet you know that well
I
by
do.
A good dear friend, Dan Nichols, a wonderful contemporary Jewish songwriter. And B'Tselem Elohim, song in English and in Hebrew, gets its title from the verse in Genesis in Bereshit, chapter 1, verse 27, I think, where human beings are created B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. And so at the very least, our first and great kids in grade 1 and grade 2 are learning this exciting song. But when we start to unfold the idea of what does it mean to be B'Tselem Elohim? What does it mean to treat every single human being as if they were created in God's image, no matter what they look like, no matter what they are able to do, no matter how their bodies work or don't work? We can have a really rich conversation about inclusion and acceptance, and we do. And we use this song as the launching off point for that kind of conversation. And so wherever we can use, again, teaching new texts through music, teaching right now, in grade 3 as they're learning about difference makers. And we teach them Ani Ve'ata by the great Israeli folk song laureate, Arik Einstein. The kids are not only connecting to one of the most popular and important songs of the first 50 years of Israel's existence, but they're also thinking about what it means to be a change maker at the very same time. So again, it's just a great way of teaching values, teaching Hebrew, and opening minds up to greater concepts and ideas through music.
And do you think that, Jewishly speaking, your Jewish educator, brain, when Leo Baeck students leave for high school, what do you think that they carry with them, Jewishly speaking? What are the things that you think are the most important things to give them on their journey out of Leo Baeck?
We have this discussion a lot. We think about what do we want our graduates to know, to think, to feel. And while that is going to look a little different for every one of our graduates, I think I would boil it down to about 3 things from a Jewish angle.
Okay.
One, we hope that our students will graduate from our school with a strong foundation in Hebrew language, knowing that that is a key to unlocking a rich canon of Jewish texts, as well as give them the ability to converse with fellow Jews, not just in Israel, but around the world. Sometimes I strike up good Hebrew conversations with the crossing guard at the end of the day, a Jew who comes to us recently from Ukraine. Secondly, I think just a toolbox for leading a Jewish life, whether that's at home or at their synagogue or at summer camp or beyond, that we have given our students, again, a lot of both joyful experiences and memories in thinking about Jewish rituals and contemporary spiritual worship and holiday practices. So they understand not only how to participate, but actually how to lead and guide others who may be less conversant or confident in those Jewish practices. And then thirdly, I think that giving them that kind of extra, almost demi-glaze of understanding that a Jewish education is not simply inward-facing. I like to think that strong Jewish educational base helps them to be outward facing. And what I mean by that is that it would give them the power to inform their values, their activism, their response to the brokenness in the world, to help them think about that what it's not just about what you know, it's not just about what you've learned, but it's about how that knowledge is going to help shape the person you are to make a positive impact, in concentric circles and radiate that forth. So we invest a lot in building character and helping to shape and nurture what we consider to be Jewish values that they will then express and demonstrate in a multitude of ways.
I think that was what I carried out of Leo Baeck, was that I was able to share my understanding, my perspective, my beliefs, and sort of with people that were not like me after I got out of Leo Baeck. I went to public high school, and I wasn't, just like you were saying, it wasn't all inward. My Jewish identity was inside, but it was also, I was able to share who I was because of the foundation that Leo Baeck gave me with people who were not like me, and answer their questions or dispel certain things that they had heard which were not necessarily accurate. And I valued that part of my education. I valued that part of what I took from Leo Baeck, because it made me feel more confident in my own Judaism, in my own understanding of myself. And it gave me the opportunity to, when those situations should occur with my friends that weren't Jewish or that were a different sect of Judaism growing up, I was able to share who I was because of the foundation that Leo Baeck gave me. So I'm appreciative of that.
Thank you. I love to hear that. And one of my favorite things that we do at our school is in grade 8 for a number of years. Our grade 8 students have had an interfaith partnership with students from a Catholic school and from a Muslim school. And it's one thing to go to each school and to learn a little bit about their beliefs and their customs and their holidays, and that's all very nice. But the most beautiful thing is to see them just connecting as teens, right? To see those points of commonality, even as they are very different, the worlds that they come from are quite distinct, that they also see this beautiful humanity in each other. And so I think, if anything, we want them to go into future experiences like that, to both have a sense of pride in their own Jewishness and who they are and how that makes them unique, but also to try to build bridges where possible, to try to, engage in meaningful dialogue with others who may not see the world in exactly the same way they do.
Thank you for listening to the Strategic Plan audio series. I encourage you to keep learning about what creates true educational excellence and how a strong Jewish independent school is flourishing right here in Toronto. For more information, visit leobeck.ca, go to the About drop-down menu, and find all you need to know on the Strategic Plan webpage.